The alien fleet moved in perfect formation across the dark stretch of space. Their ships were smooth and elegant, glowing faint blue with the energy that powered them. For centuries, their people had ruled this part of the galaxy. No other race had dared to challenge them. They believed their weapons were unmatched, their defenses unbreakable. On this night, they thought the patrol would be like every other. The commanders spoke with calm voices, the young pilots laughed in their cockpits, and the fleet carried a mood of pride and certainty. Nothing could shake them. At least that was what they believed. It started as a whisper on the long-range scanners. A shadow far away, moving slowly but with a strange path. At first, the officers ignored it. The universe was full of rocks, comets, and pieces of debris, but this shadow did not act like a rock. It changed speed. It adjusted its course. It was deliberate. The alien commander narrowed his eyes. Magnify the image. The screens filled with static, then cleared. A shape appeared. It was sharp, metallic, dark, as if it swallowed the starlight around it. No signature code identified it. No language beacon explained its origin. It was completely silent, drifting, but alive. The crew shifted uncomfortably in their seats. What species builds something like that? One asked. None could answer. The fleet closed in, their elegant ships spreading like wings around the stranger. Normally, other civilizations panicked when surrounded by their kind. They would broadcast pleas for peace or threats of war. Yet this ship did nothing. It floated calmly as if it had no reason to fear. The commander ordered a scan. Numbers flickered across the display, then failed. Weapon strength unknown, shield capacity unreadable, energy core immeasurable. Every attempt to read the ship ended in a wall of confusion. It was as if the vessel existed in a language the galaxy did not understand. "Is it a weapon?" asked a nervous officer. The commander did not reply. His eyes stayed locked on the screen. The alien ships continued to circle the dark object. For a long moment, the silence in space grew heavy. No signals, no sounds, no movements. Only the slow heartbeat of something waiting. Then, with one subtle shift, the strange vessel turned. Its front now faced the entire alien fleet. The effect was immediate. The laughter of pilots stopped. Conversations died. Even the hum of their own ship seemed weaker, smaller. It was as if the stranger's gaze pressed against their minds. "It is watching us," whispered one soldier. A chill moved through the command deck. How could a machine look at them? And yet every alien felt the same thing. The ship was aware. It studied them like a predator studies prey. The commander tried to steady his voice. "Prepare weapons, but do not fire." Dozens of ships armed their cannons. Glowing lights filled the void, aiming at the silent shadow. Yet the crew noticed something strange. Their hands trembled. Their hearts beat too fast. In all their years of conquest, they had never hesitated. Why now? Because this was different. This was not a weak colony. This was not a broken fleet. This was something unknown, something that did not follow the rules of the galaxy. Minutes passed, but to the aliens it felt like hours. The dark ship never fired. It never moved closer. But its presence alone was crushing. At last, the commander spoke again. "Send a message. Identify us. Demand its name." A pulse of light carried across the void, coded in their proud language. The alien words reached the strange ship. But there was no answer. The silence that followed was louder than any threat. Some officers begged to retreat. Others argued they should strike now before the ship struck first. The commander stood between fear and pride. His people had never backed away from an enemy. To retreat now would be shame. But to attack an unknown force might mean death. Then something happened that none of them expected. Their screens lit up, not with an image, not with words, but with a feeling. A deep vibration echoed inside their skulls as if the ship itself had spoken into their minds. It was not clear language. It was not music. It was warning. The bridge fell silent. Even the youngest pilot felt it. A line had been drawn. The commander's mouth went dry. He did not understand the message, but he understood the meaning. "Do not test me." The fleet froze. Dozens of ships armed and ready did not dare to move. The alien empire, rulers of countless systems, found itself paralyzed by the silent presence of a single warship. No one knew what kind of species had built this. No one knew why it had come. But for the first time in history, the alien fleet felt something they had not known for centuries: fear. The ship drifted forward, slow and steady, as if daring them to block its path. No one fired. No one moved. The fleet of conquerors simply parted, leaving a corridor in space for the stranger to pass through. And as it moved, they realized something else. This was not a full army. This was not a fleet of invasion. This was only one ship. The thought hit them harder than any weapon. If one vessel could freeze their entire fleet in silence, then what would happen if more appeared? The alien commander's voice shook as he whispered to himself, words no one on his bridge had ever heard before. What are these humans? The alien fleet floated in uneasy silence. Hundreds of ships, once proud, now held their ground like statues in the void. The strange warship rested at the center of their circle, calm and still, but its presence felt heavier than an entire armada. No alarms rang. No weapons fired. Yet every alien officer felt trapped, as if time itself had frozen. Inside the command deck of the lead vessel, the air was thick. The commander stood tall, but his jaw tightened. His crew avoided his eyes, afraid to speak. They all knew the truth, something was wrong. Their enemy was not acting like an enemy. That was far more dangerous. The commander lifted his hand. Scan it again. Technicians obeyed. Energy beams swept across the dark warship. The results returned broken and incomplete. No heat readings. No clear shield levels. Weapon systems unreadable. It was as if the ship rejected their technology. "It blocks our scans," said one officer with fear in her voice. "It does not want us to know its power." The commander shook his head. "No, it does not need to block us. It is simply too advanced for us to measure." A low murmur spread across the deck. If that was true, then their entire empire's pride meant nothing. Out in space, alien fighters adjusted position. Their wings glowed brighter as they tried to show force. The warship did not respond. It did not even turn its weapons toward them. That silence pressed harder than open fire. A young pilot whispered through the comms, his voice trembling. "Why does it not attack? Why does it not move?" No one answered. The question itself was dangerous. At last, one of the alien captains broke the silence. His ship drifted forward just a little, testing the gap between them and the warship. His crew watched the dark vessel with wide eyes. It did not react. The captain laughed, trying to cover his fear. "See, it is only a machine. It wants us to think it is strong." But the laugh died quickly. The warship tilted just slightly, and the alien vessel froze in place. Not a weapon fired, not a sound made, but the meaning was clear. Stop. The alien captain's laughter choked into silence. He retreated back into formation, his pride broken. The other commanders whispered over the comms. Some argued for attack, others begged for retreat. Yet none dared to move. It was as though their entire fleet had become prey, surrounded by the eyes of a single predator. The alien commander clenched his fists. His empire had always been feared, but in this moment they were the ones afraid. He opened a channel to all ships. His voice echoed with false strength. "We hold our position. Do not fire until I command it." A long pause followed. Then slowly, every captain gave a single reply. "Understood." The warship remained silent. Its dark hull reflected the faint glow of distant stars. It did not move forward, did not move back. It simply waited. The longer the standoff stretched, the more the alien fleet began to crack. Fear turned into whispers. Whispers into arguments. One officer on the bridge leaned closer to his commander. "What if it is not alone?" The commander's eyes narrowed. He had been asking himself the same question. "Do you see others?" "No, but what if it called for them? What if more are on the way?" The thought spread like poison through the fleet. If this was just one ship, what would happen when an entire human fleet arrived? Every alien heart raced faster. The silence was unbearable. They would have preferred an attack, even destruction, to this waiting. Then a sound came across their comms. Not words. Not language. A single low pulse like a deep drumbeat echoing through their bones. The ship shook slightly as the signal passed through them. Lights flickered. Engines groaned. Then silence returned. What was that? A voice cried. The commander swallowed hard. A warning. The alien fleet's pride shattered. Here they were, hundreds of ships strong, reduced to statues by one sound. The warship had not fired a single weapon, yet it had reminded them who controlled this battlefield. The commander turned his eyes back to the dark vessel. He could not admit it out loud, but deep in his mind he understood. They were outmatched. Still, he had to protect his people's honor. "If it does not move," he said quietly, "then we wait. We do not strike first." The alien ships held their position. They circled the warship like frightened animals, each one hoping the other would act first. None of them dared to. The galaxy outside was endless and quiet, but inside every alien heart there was only one truth. They were staring into the unknown. The warship did not speak. It did not attack. It only waited, and the longer it waited, the more the aliens felt the truth pressing into their minds. It was not their fleet that was holding this warship in place. It was the warship holding them. The alien fleet remained in place, caught between pride and fear. Their ships glowed like scattered stars around the dark warship, but none dared to fire. Every second of silence felt heavier. The unknown vessel did not need weapons to press on their nerves. Its stillness was enough. Inside the command deck of the lead alien ship, the tension grew unbearable. Officers shifted nervously. Some whispered prayers to their ancient gods. Others gripped their controls as if ready to fight or flee. The commander stood silent, his mind torn between his duty to show strength and the fear that strength meant nothing here. Then it happened. One alien captain, younger and more reckless than the rest, broke. His pride screamed louder than his fear. He shouted across his channel, his voice shaking with both rage and terror. "We are the Empire. We do not kneel to shadows. Watch and see how weak it truly is." Before anyone could stop him, his ship's weapons charged. The glow of his cannons lit up the void. A powerful beam of energy burst forward, cutting across space toward the silent warship. The alien fleet held its breath. The beam never landed. It vanished. One moment it roared across the stars. The next it was gone, absorbed by the dark ship as if swallowed by nothingness. No explosion, no flash, no sound. Simply erased. Gas filled the comms. Officers stared at their screens in disbelief. Their strongest weapons had not even touched it. It was as if the warship had rewritten the laws of physics in front of their eyes. The young captain's voice cracked. "Impossible. It cannot." But before he could finish, the warship answered, not with words, not with an attack. With a single pulse of light. It was not a blast. It was not violent. Just a wave, smooth and controlled, that spread outward in silence. It touched the alien ships like a cold hand brushing across their hulls. Then chaos erupted. Half the fleet went dark. Engines shut down. Lights flickered and died. Weapons fell silent. Pilots shouted in panic as their controls froze. Whole crews floated helplessly, their ships reduced to lifeless shells. But none were destroyed. Not a single hull cracked. Not a single life ended. The warship had shown its power without taking blood. It had disabled them with a single breath, then let them live to feel the weight of that mercy. On the alien command deck, silence fell again, deeper than before. The commander stared at the black shape on his screen. His chest tightened. It could have ended them all. With one move, it could have burned their empire into ash, but it had not. That restraint was worse than death. Because now they knew. The warship was not just powerful. It was controlled. It had strength beyond their imagination, but also the will to hold it back. That meant something far more terrifying. It was not a machine of blind destruction. It was a weapon guided by a mind that had chosen to show mercy. The fleet trembled. Captains who once bragged of victory now whispered like children. Why did it spare us?" one asked. Another replied with a shaking voice. "Because it does not see us as a threat. It sees us as nothing." The commander clenched his fists. Rage burned inside him, but it was drowned by fear. He knew his officer was right. Their entire fleet, their proud empire, had been dismissed like insects. Suddenly, a sound filled the comms. A low hum, steady and calm, flowed into every ship. At first, it seemed like static. Then slowly it formed into words, translated by their systems into a voice they had never heard before. The voice was human. Cold. Calm. Without fear. "Do not test us again." Every alien heart stopped. The words were simple, but their weight was crushing. The fleet now understood. They were not facing an empty machine. They were facing humanity. One ship had frozen them. One ship had erased their weapons. One ship had spoken with a voice that held no hate, no rage, no effort. Just truth. The young captain who had fired first collapsed into his chair, trembling. His pride was gone. His voice was hollow. What are they? No one answered. No one could. The warship remained silent after its message. It drifted forward with steady grace, ignoring the fleet that now floated broken and afraid. Its hull reflected no light, its weapons silent, but its presence echoed in every alien mind. The commander finally spoke, but his voice was low, almost a whisper. This was only one ship. The crew froze as his words sank in. If one vessel carried such strength, what would happen when more appeared? What would happen if this was only a scout or worse, a warning? No one dared to imagine. The aliens had ruled the stars for centuries, but now for the first time, they felt what it was like to be ruled by fear. The galaxy was wider than they thought, and somewhere out there humanity waited. The silent standoff was over, but the true test had just begun. The alien fleet floated in the dark, broken and quiet. Many of their ships had gone dark after the strange pulse. Their systems shut down like candles in a storm. The rest drifted in silence, afraid to move, afraid even to breathe too loudly inside their helmets. The warship did not fire again. It did not destroy them. It simply advanced through the gap in their formation as if the fleet no longer mattered. Every alien eye followed it. Their own ships, proud and sleek, now looked fragile next to that silent shadow. They had thought themselves rulers of the stars, but in this moment they felt like children holding toys. Inside the command deck of the lead vessel, the commander stood frozen. His crew stared at him, waiting for orders, but his throat was dry. What command could he give? Attack? Retreat? Nothing seemed possible anymore. Then it came. The voice. It broke across the comms like a steady wave, calm and cold, carrying through every alien ship at once. Their translators adjusted, reshaped it, turned it into sound they could all understand. The voice was human. It spoke slowly, with no anger and no pride, only certainty. You have seen a fragment of our strength. Understand this, humanity seeks no war. But if you force our hand, there will be no corner of this galaxy where you can hide. Do not follow us. Do not test us again. The words were simple, yet they struck harder than any weapon. The bridge of the alien flagship fell silent. Not even the hum of machinery could cover the weight of the message. The officers looked at each other, fear painted on their faces. The commander forced his voice to remain steady. Reply, ask them what they want. Ask why they came. His communication officer obeyed, sending a sharp pulse of alien code. For long seconds, there was nothing but static in return. Then the human voice came again. We want only our path. Cross it and you will regret it. The officer's hand shook. Commander, this is not a threat. It is a command. The commander knew she was right. The humans had not spoken like enemies. They had spoken like rulers addressing subjects. No, worse, they had spoken as though the aliens were irrelevant. An obstacle in space, nothing more. Across the fleet, captains whispered among themselves. Their comms carried fragments of fear. Was this only one ship? Are there more? What kind of race builds something like that? What kind of race controls it so calmly? The questions had no answers, and that was more terrifying than the warship itself. The human vessel drifted forward, unhurried, like a giant passing through a field of insects. Not a single alien ship moved to block it. Even those with weapons still alive dared not raise them. The memory of the erased beam and the silent pulse weighed too heavily on them. For centuries, their empire had sent messages of dominance across the galaxy. They had made other species kneel. But now, for the first time, they were on the other side of such a message, and it was only one human voice. The commander felt sweat on his hands. He could not allow his people to see his fear, but inside his chest it burned like fire. His empire had been arrogant. They thought no other race could rise to their level. But this was beyond level. This was something different, something higher. He spoke carefully, his words for his officers only. Remember this moment. We may not understand them, but we must never forget them. The crew nodded weakly. None of them would ever forget. Then the warship did something none of them expected. It stopped. The aliens froze, every ship waiting, every eye locked on the dark shape. A pause stretched across the stars, longer and heavier than before. Then the human voice spoke one last time. You call yourselves conquerors, but there are things in this galaxy you cannot conquer. Know this and survive. The message ended. Without another sound, the warship vanished. Not in a flash, not in a warp tunnel. One moment it was there, and the next it was gone. as if the universe itself had erased it. Every alien system screamed with confusion. Their scanners read nothing. No trail, no coordinates. The ship had left them with fear and nothing else. The alien fleet remained silent. Some whispered that they had seen a ghost. Others believed they had witnessed a god. The commander, however, understood the truth. It was not a god. It was not a ghost. It was something far more dangerous. It was human, and it had promised that if they ever tested humanity again, there would be no survival. The standoff was over. The message was delivered. But in the heart of the alien empire, fear began to spread like a disease. Every officer, every soldier, every leader who heard that voice would carry it home. They would tell their people. They would tell their rulers. And slowly, across star systems, across colonies, across worlds, the legend would grow. The day the aliens froze. The day a single human ship brought an empire to its knees without firing a single true shot. The galaxy would never be the same. The alien fleet drifted in silence long after the human warship vanished. Their ships remained frozen, half of them powerless, the other half too afraid to move. The void around them was dark and endless, but it no longer felt like freedom. It felt like a cage. No one spoke at first. Officers sat still at their stations. Pilots stared through their glass screens into the emptiness where the warship had disappeared. It was as if every voice had been stolen, leaving behind only the echo of that calm human warning. Do not test us again. Finally, a young officer whispered what many had already begun to think. What if that was not their strongest ship? What if it was only the smallest? Her words spread across the bridge like poison. The crew shivered. The commander did not correct her. Deep in his heart, he knew she was right. That warship had not shown its full power. It had only shown enough. Enough to remind them of their weakness. Enough to plant fear that would never leave. Across the fleet, the same thoughts grew. Captains looked at their own vessels, once symbols of glory, and now they seemed fragile, breakable. Their empire, built on fear of their power, had just been cracked by a single intruder. When the damaged ships finally powered back on, no one cheered. The return of light to their systems brought no pride. It only reminded them of the darkness they had been forced into. The commander opened a channel to all surviving ships. His voice was steady but heavy. We return home. Carry this warning to every system. Carry it to every leader. Humanity is not to be touched. Not a single voice argued. Not a single captain protested. The empire that once crushed opposition now bowed its head in silence. The journey back to their homeworld was slow. No one laughed. No one sang songs of victory as they often did after missions. Instead, whispers filled the halls of every ship. Pilots told each other that the warship had erased a beam of energy with nothing more than its presence. Engineers swore they still heard the hum of the human voice echoing through their systems. Fear became a living thing. When the fleet finally returned, their rulers expected reports of conquest, tales of dominance. Instead, they were met with silence and pale faces. The commander stood before the High Council, his uniform stiff, his body tired. He gave them the truth in simple words. One human ship stopped us. We could not fight it. We could not measure it. We could not understand it. And it left us alive only because it chose to. The council laughed at first. They called it cowardice, called the commander weak. But then they heard the recordings. They listened to the human voice. They saw the moment when half the fleet fell dark with one pulse of light. The laughter died. The empire had ruled for centuries through fear. Now for the first time they had found a fear greater than their own power. And so the message spread, not just through the empire but through whispers across the galaxy. Traitors carried the tale. Spies repeated it. Captains told it to their crews. A legend began to take shape. It became known as the night the fleet froze, a night when an empire bowed to a single ship, a night when the word human was spoken in every corner of space with both awe and dread. Generations passed, but the story did not fade. Parents told it to their children as warning. Soldiers carried it into battle as fear. Leaders kept it close in their minds as a shadow that shaped every decision. No alien empire dared to strike at Earth, not even with secret weapons or hidden fleets. The memory was too strong. The fear was too alive. For humanity, the story was different. The warship returned to its own people without celebration. To them, it had been only a mission, a simple command to protect their path. They did not boast, they did not brag. They only moved forward into the galaxy, their eyes fixed on the stars. But behind them, across countless worlds, their legend grew louder. The galaxy began to speak of humanity in hushed tones. They called them shadow walkers. They called them star killers. They called them the race no one should test, yet the truth was far simpler. Humanity did not seek conquest. They did not seek endless war. They only sought to survive, and in their survival they carried strength greater than any empire had ever seen. The aliens never forgot the feeling of that night, the helplessness, the silence, the voice that spoke without anger but with absolute certainty. It was not just a warning. It was a promise. The galaxy could attack them. The galaxy could resist them. But if humanity ever rose in full strength, there would be no second chances. And so, across time, across systems, across languages and species, one memory lived forever. The night the aliens saw a human warship for the first time, and their entire fleet froze.